treasurer of the campaign. Thank you all for helping us make history today. Mr. Nader is working
with that as the background.
Mr. Nader is working today to try to set the world record, the Guinness Book of World Records, for the most public speeches in one day.
All right.
Give him a hand. He's going to 21 communities across the state of Massachusetts, and he's talking to the people, and this signifies his campaigning with the people rather than the two corporate parties that are used to taking contributions from corporations and campaigning for corporations. We've been all over the state so far, and we reflect upon the fact that the revolutionists realized that they were campaigning and fighting as much against King George as against the British East India Company and the predations of corporate power, even in the Revolutionary era. There's really only one candidate. There's really only one candidate who's been fighting against corporate power for the people, and that is Ralph Nader, who we're honored to have here today.
Well, this is one of the best venues we could ever speak to. I mean, this is my native New England at its best, and farmer to consumer markets are a way for small farmers to free themselves from the double squeeze, the squeeze of the giant suppliers like Monsanto genetically engineered seed, and watch those prices in the last few years, and the fertilizer companies on one side, and being squeezed by the big buyers like Cargill and ADM and the big meat packers on the other. We've been champions of small farmers for decades. Not just rhetoric, but action. And in the 2008 Farm Bill, we almost got a very good amendment to apply the antitrust laws to the giant meat packers and poultry processors and the grain dealers, and they were too much in terms of their lobbies. But it almost got through, and we're going to try again, because every social justice movement, must be willing to endure losses and losses and losses until we prevail.
I've been voting for you ever since you first started running.
Now, we just came off the bridge at Concord, and I read some parts of the Declaration of Independence, which are very similar in our early patriots' charges against King George III to King George IV. Read it, and you'll see what I mean. We don't have time for that now.
TV party.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about agribusiness and small farmers. When I was growing up in Connecticut, I remember reading an article, this was the late 40s, which said that 80% of the vegetables consumed in Massachusetts were produced in Massachusetts. And it wasn't many years later when it was reversed. 20% of the vegetables produced in Massachusetts, consumed in Massachusetts, were produced here. And where were the others? Freight trains were carrying tomatoes over the Rocky Mountains from California, over the Great Plains, until they reached their rubberized destination in Chicopee. And we've got to go back to where we grow our own food, near the places where we eat our own food. We don't have to worry about contaminated fish and contaminated food otherwise from China, which are not properly inspected, if they're inspected at all, either by our inspectors in China or by the Customs Bureau. We're heading for a major disaster here, and you know what the problems have been. Ingredients in pharmaceuticals in one drug have killed 100 Americans coming from China uninspected in the last few months, right there. And you don't hear much about that. We need very much to enact legislation which has been worked out in fine detail by a group I helped start that is now run by small farmers and academics at land-grant universities, called Organization for Competitive Markets. Anybody hear of that? OCM?
Yes.
Look it up. It's on the website. Organization for Competitive Markets.com or .org, and they have a major piece of legislation. They're moving closer and closer to success in Washington that will make the food markets more competitive. And that means reducing the power of agribusiness. Agribusiness is not just squeezing the small farmer. They're vertically integrating and replacing the small farmer. You can see now that the meat packers own more pigs and more cattle than the farmers do and the ranchers do. And the poultry processors have the poultry growers under a peonage called poultry peonage that many of you know about. Those contracts are like out of the medieval ages. There are farmers who make $12,000 a year selling the chicks that were given to them by the food processors, and they make a nickel a chick. And it's tens of thousands of chicks they have to grow in the most horrible circumstances for both the chickens and themselves. And so we need to end this crushing together of pigs and cattle and chickens, not only for humane treatment of chickens, but when they're crushed together like that, everything they eat is saturated with antibiotics, lice-reducing chemicals, and so on. And guess who gets the residue of that? The carnivores of America. Which is why maybe you should increase the amount of fruits and vegetables you eat. We're going across the Commonwealth, on full Medicare for all, free choice of doctor and hospital, living wage denied. Over 47 million full-time working Americans making Walmart wages 7, 8, 9, 10, under $11 an hour. This is disgraceful. The minimum wage of 1968, adjusted for inflation, would be $10 an hour. The federal minimum wage is now $6.55 an hour. We need what the Western Europeans demanded and got out of the rubble of World War II. Imagine, we came out of World War II, the richest, most powerful country. They were devastated. Cities, countryside, hunger, impoverishment, 50% unemployment. And look at the difference. Starting in 1946, they demanded from their multi-party system, not our two-party elected dictatorship, they demanded from our multi-party system with proportional representation, instant runoff voting, through their trade unions, through their cooperatives, through other institutions that they built prior to World War II. Watch this. Everything I'm going to list now, we do not have in the United States of America by law for all its people, but Western European people do. And if you don't believe it, Danish TV is with us right now, and they'll confirm it. Here's what they demanded and got. They demanded and got universal health insurance for all their people, decent wages for all their people, decent pensions for all their people, decent public transit for all their people. They demanded and received a minimum of 4 weeks paid vacation for all their people. They received paid maternity leave, decent sick leave, paid family sick leave, and university-free tuition. None of these social benefits of a productive economy have ever been given to our people in the United States of America, land of the free, home of the brave, by those two major corrupt parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. They failed to deliver for the American people with horrible loss of life as a result. If you don't have health insurance, you may be one of the 20,000 people who die every year in this country, according to the National Academy of Sciences. Imagine how many millions get sick, stay sicker, don't have their injuries treated because of this greedy health insurance corporation-dominated pay-or-die system. The Republican Party and Democratic Party didn't deliver these social benefits in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or this decade. How many more decades are we going to give these two corporate indentured parties whose principal goal is self-perpetuation by taking money from corporate interests that are against the people's interests. And by subordinating our precious federal government, department by department, to the corporate supremacists who control Washington, D.C. and have turned it into corporate occupied territory. I don't want to give them any more time. And I know Obama is likely to sweep Massachusetts. And I know that if Nader Gonzalez were allowed on those presidential debates, and in anticipation of those presidential debates, which are controlled by the two major parties, we would have gotten national TV coverage. This would have been a three-way presidential race. And it would have had enormous consequences for the future, because it would have told those two parties that a major political force is building in America, and if they don't shape up, the people are going to ship them out. But we are trying our best here, and if we get hundreds of thousands of votes in Massachusetts by people who know they're going to get the least of the worst too, by their sides, because Obama is going to sweep, they are free to vote their conscience. They are free to vote for who they believe in, who has stood for them for over 40 years, 7 days a week, no vacations, because Ralph Nader believes that the greatest gratification in life is the advancement of justice for all the people of our country and the world. Thank you very much. Spread the word in the next 10 days. Get your friends, relatives, neighbors, co-workers talking politics, talking progressive politics, and send a message to the two parties. The more votes we get, the more hammer and watchdog there's going to be right after November 4th, and the stronger all those citizen groups that you love, that you send your $25 to in Washington, will become as well. And if you want more details, votenader.org. Go to the issues page. On one page, you'll see 17 redirections of our country that are long overdue, that many people in Western Europe have, that are opposed or ignored by Obama and McCain. And why do the corporate interests give more money to Obama, the Wall Street interests, than McCain? Because he's demonstrated for years that he's their man. Prepare to be disappointed. More is in this book. This book is The Good Fight.
Yeah.
Declare your independence and close the democracy gap. It's autographed, and Matt's our chief organizer. He wants to say a few words just in a minute before we have to go on to our next destination. And just remember, oh, how nice. Thank you very much. That's who we're doing it for. Matt Zawiskis has a few words. He's our chief organizer, working class background in Buffalo.
Thank you, Ralph. Ralph can't do without you, so we need your support this final 10 days. You can give up to the legal limit of $2,300. Anything less than that would be greatly appreciated by our hardworking volunteers who are combing the state with us, and our hardworking staff. Many of them have quit their jobs, left school to work on this exciting, historic campaign. So we want you to be a part of this historic tour, this Guinness Book of World Records tour. Yeah. We need everyone to sign in. Everyone sign in. We have clipboards going around. We really need to sign in to be a part of this.
Rules.
Yeah, exactly. It's a part of the Guinness Book of World Records rules. So it's extremely important. You sign in, be patient. We have clipboards going around. We're going to have a bucket going around for contributions. You can give cash, credit card, and checks. So, again, Ralph can't do it alone. We need to continue build our movement, and we have a beautiful T-shirt here that signifies this Massachusetts Marathon. So, again, limited edition. The most you can give, the legal limit is $2,300. Think about it. Anything less is greatly appreciated by our staff, volunteers, from Nader Gonzalez. So thank you all. We're off to our next stop. We also have a fantastic autographed book, The Good Fight, which is one of Ralph's books exposing corporate America and what we can do to get them off our back and to build a more just society. So thank you all. Connect with our volunteers, and let's stay strong. So thank you all.
Thanks for 8 years of push, Ralph. Hey, Tim,
I'll buy one.